Hey, Phil, can you hear me now?
Welcome to the Brazil Expat Journal, the BJ you can trust. I haven't listened to my intro music all the way through in a while. I felt like listening to it tonight. Anyway, hello, people. It's Phil, and I'm back again. And Peter may or may not be here. And we're going to talk about the transition between the tourist phase and the I want to live in Brazil phase, and all the ups and downs that come with that. But before we get to that, usually I like to promo other people. Tonight I'm going to promo myself. And why am I promoting myself? Because I partner up with Bishop, who actually did a BJ before, and you should probably see a little thing come up on the side. You can listen to that interview. He's a brother from New Jersey who's been living down here for a long time, and he does a lot of music down here with his wife Lena. So me, him, and Lena, we opened up a spot in downtown São Paulo, and it's gonna have workshops, music, art, dance, a little bit of everything. It's inside this real cool building that's got a bunch of here they call it brechó, but used clothes stores, but really awesome clothes. I've been buying so much clothes from these brechós. And we're gonna have our party on the 30th. So I'm gonna show you a little bit of that, and then we're gonna get right into talking with Justin. And here we go. Look at this, guys. Let me share this tab. See if you can see that or not. Let me remove this. I got to remember how to work my StreamYard. It's been a while. So if you want to follow the place, it's right there. Underline Espaço 337. It's with a C, okay? Espaco. 337. And here's our first post. We just made this Instagram like what, 3-4 days ago, and see if you can hear that.
Yeah, what's up, people? Tell us about Espaço 337.
All right, so Espaço 337, guys, is a new place down here in downtown São Paulo.
Espaço 337 é um novo lugar aqui no centro de São Paulo.
And we're going to unite all different tribes, from the skaters to the rappers.
A gente vai unir todas as tribos, desde os
skatistas, rappers,
os artistas, artists, musicians. Vamos ter sarau, vamos ter oficinas.
We will have open mics. We will have workshops.
We're gonna have English immersions.
That's the golden ticket. English immersions, imersões de inglês, que você já fez bastante. Ô, Phil, fala um pouco sobre você, Phil, porque a galera talvez não sabe.
Sim, essa é a primeira vez nós três juntos, né? Que já fizemos vídeos separados aqui, mas aqui é o time atrás do Espaço 337. Então, meu nome é Phil.
His name's Phil.
Ou Felipe, tanto faz. E eu nasci no Brasil, fui criado nos Estados Unidos.
He was born in Brazil, raised in the United States, in New Jersey, wasn't it?
New Jersey.
We're both from New Jersey.
Yes, eu sou do sul de Jersey, Philadelphia.
Ele não é do verdadeiro, mas
enfim, então a ideia, gente, é conectar pessoas. A coisa que eu amo muito, I love connecting people. Eu amo conectar pessoas, conectar culturas, conectar o lado brasileiro com o lado americano.
That's what we're about doing.
Aqui no fundo, vamos também ter espaço para ensaios de banda durante a semana. Então eu quero ver as bandas aqui, vamos ter até batalha de banda, karaokê. Todos nós vêm da música também.
Hey guys!
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. And this is Espaço 337, and it is right in the heart of downtown São Paulo, Rua Dom José dos Barros 337, centro de São Paulo. Maybe it's Do Barros. I can never get my Portuguese right. And perfect spot. Our party is going to be on the 30th. That's when we're going to inaugurate it, which is not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. So it's sandwiched right between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So if you're not traveling, you may want to be there. And then one more announcement before I get to it, because I know Justin's waiting in the wing, is this, guys, because I want to thank everyone who has been following the BJ for as long as I've been doing it. during the pandemic, it was much easier to get this content out to you. After I began working again and running around and opening up cultural spaces, it's really hard to do the BJs. So they don't come out as frequently, but they do come out because I love doing them. I love connecting with you guys. But if you want a little bit of like my day-to-day life, like what's going on, follow me on Instagram at Phil Ray Music. Follow me at Phil Ray Music, but also, of course, follow our new page, which is, like I said, I'm going to write it here in the comments. It's underline Espacio 337, Espacio 337, which is the address there. But you can also follow me at Phil Ray Music if you want to get a little bit of my goings ons. And there's a lot of goings ons, especially, some music and some summer guys. Look at this. That's what we're talking about. But anyway, enough about me. And thank you, Travelmatic. Thank you for always being there for the channel. Let's get to Justin, okay? Justin's from Canada. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself to start, and then we're going to see, how his transition is from traveler to perhaps permanent resident. So, Mr. Justin, you're back. Say hello to the people. Do we hear Justin?
Hey there, Phil. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Good to have you, brother. So tell us a little bit, real brief, just where you're from, what you did, and why you're here in Brazil. What put Brazil on the map for you? Oh, are we there? Did I lose Justin? It's the
Sorry,
Canadians.
Phil. Sorry, Phil. I just had a little connection issue there.
It's fine. Go ahead. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you did, and what put Brazil on the map for you, real quick.
Absolutely. So I'm from the west coast of Canada, close to Vancouver. And there are a lot of South Americans in the areas where I live. And, Latin and South American culture is always called out to me. And I always felt a bit of a gap in values here in Canada from ever since I was a young kid. And I took my first trip to Brazil last winter from Canada. And
Justin, I'm just going to cut you off a little bit. Justin, can you hear me? I'm going to cut you off a little bit because you're breaking up. Your sound was really good like a second ago, and then it's breaking up. So see if you can get in a place there in your house with a good connection, because otherwise people aren't going to pick up anything that you're saying. But you're fading here. The audio is fading a little bit. By the way, guys, here you go. You want a little bit about Brazil? Bad internet.
Sorry, Phil. I'm in a concrete box here.
All right, get real close to that mic then, please.
Yeah, so sorry, Phil.
That's better. That's better. You can go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to finish by saying, I felt more at home within a couple weeks in Brazil than I really ever have in Canada, thanks to the different values and the different culture here. And honestly, it was a very easy decision for me to make the choice to start working towards coming down here. And sure enough, 1 year later, I'm happy to be here, my man.
And let me ask you, when you came down as a traveler, where did you go?
I spent a lot of time in Sao Paulo. I primarily came here to connect with people, and I realized, you know what? Sao Paulo is a really cool international city, and I got a lot out of that. But I also went to Ubatuba and a few other spots on the littoral norte of Sao Paulo as well.
Okay, those are the beach towns, guys. When we say litoral, that's the coastal cities. And so you felt really at home. You went back to Canada. I'm looking here for the picture I have with you. I forgot to put it up, but I met this guy when he was down here the first time, and I could tell this guy has Brazil in his DNA. Like he just fit right in
Yeah,
to the country.
Phil took me to my first Carrefour. I'll never forget that on Avenida Paulista. Absolutely.
Yeah, we had some nice caipirinhas down there on Augusta. Yeah. So you went back to Canada. So when you went back, did you already think I'm gonna return to Brazil, or was it something like I'm gonna go back, see if I can get my life together over there, blah blah blah, maybe visit every once in a while, or was it just this itch, like, man, I really got to get back to Brazil? Like, how did that work out? What was your planning process?
Yeah, it was almost immediate, Phil. Within, like I said, within the first 2 weeks, I felt a feeling that I've been really searching for in my current country my whole life. And at 32, I figured, you know what? There's no time to waste. So even while I was still in Brazil, I was starting to formulate my plan on how I would change my businesses and come up with some new ideas to support myself down here. And it took a little time, and you got to play chess, not checkers in life. But I eventually made a good plan to the point where I felt good enough to really take the plunge. So here I am.
Now let me get into more specifics here. Like, first off, because you said a couple things that were interesting. Can you express what that thing was that you connected with? Can you give us a little bit of insight on what exactly connected you?
That's a really good question. I think the best way I could put it is I've always valued people for who they are, not what they are. And my whole life in Canada, just a little background, I am visually impaired, so that does change my perspective on people and also other people's perspectives on myself. And that I think that was the best way of summing up how I felt as a young kid. I always felt very judged for what I was over who I was. But right when I came to Brazil, at first I was quite apprehensive, and it took a while for me to bring my defenses down because I was so used to being judged for that and similar things to that, being looked down on in one way or another. But very quickly I realized, people really value people for who they are here, not what they are. And it was all uphill from there. Easy.
Cool, and I'm gonna add a little bit to that, guys, because we're gonna just go through the whole process here of like moving to Brazil. It's not an easy process, and he said chess. For me, I don't know if there's any Star Trek fans out there. It's probably like the four-dimensional chess that they play in Star Trek. It's multi-layered. Coming to Brazil, it's not for amateurs, as the famous quote says. Brazil is not for amateurs. But it's so cool that you said this, because I have a lot of women on the podcast and they say the same thing, but for them, obviously it's more for women issues, like as far as feeling okay in their own skin. When they come down here and they'll go to the beach and they see thick women who are wearing bikinis and are enjoying their bodies and dancing and having so much fun and just feeling okay in their own body, compared to the States, where it's so sexuality and things like that is a bit more puritanical, the style of it. So when they come down here, they feel this acceptance, like I can just be me. So it's cool that you basically said the same thing, but coming from a different angle, as far as being visually impaired and having people look at you a little bit different. And by the way, I found the picture of us right there. So you got not four eyes there, you got eight eyes on the screen, because I'm wearing my glasses too. So I definitely dig that about Brazil too, is that this is a country where people are a little bit more like, whatever, just be you, and people will more or less accept you. I mean, it's not flowers everywhere. And then you also said something else that I thought was interesting, is because you went back to Canada and you already started planning. Can you give us just one or two things that were like priority for you as far as coming to Brazil, when that with that planning phase of it all?
Absolutely, Phil. So I think the biggest thing for me was living in one of the most expensive areas in all of Canada, one of the most sought after spots to live. I didn't necessarily have a big trust fund or a big savings account to rely on for a cushion. You know, all I have is my businesses. I started my construction company when I was 24 and have been an entrepreneur ever since. So one of the biggest things was adapting the framework of that company around running it remotely. And I was really lucky to have a few really good people behind me in Squamish. Shout out to Gottfried, shout out to Toby, shout out to Kale. Thank you guys. And but then in addition as well, I did start a consulting company for other small construction companies as well. So for me, really, it was not so much the mental or emotional or cutting ties with Canada aspect. It really, most of my planning was just revolving around the financial end. And yeah, by about August, about 5 months after I returned, I had a plan, and I'm enacting it right now. So we're going to see how it goes. But so far, so good.
So far, so good. And folks, it's essential. I mean, regardless of where you move, you need to plan if you're planning a long stay. But Brazil, it is essential. I'm
Yeah.
finishing a book. It'll come out soon about life in Brazil in general. In the first chapter, I talk about this, about really make sure you not only have a plan to get here, but an exit plan. I think a lot of expats forget that part. Have an exit plan in case shit hits the fan. And being as things are, it's a Latin American country. As you know, Latin America it's never ending developing. It's a developing nation that's
Absolutely.
So what does that mean is that things are crazy. Things may be smooth for 6 months, and then it's hell for the next three, and then it's a deeper level of hell for the other three, and then it's back to paradise. And since I've been here, just so you get an idea, guys, I've seen a president be impeached. I've seen another one go to jail. I've seen another one get stabbed trying to become president, and now he's not president anymore, and he might go to jail. And then the one that was in jail is now president. And again, I'm saying this just as facts, not partisan or anything. And that's since 2009. Okay, so just to give you an idea how insane it can be as far as the government in Brazil. I mean, I know Justin comes from Canada, and Pete, which unfortunately is not here, my co-host, he's from Canada too, and he bitches a lot about the level of bureaucracy in Canada. I've never been, so I don't know. But here in Brazil, you feel the weight of the government as far as taxes and bureaucracy and this and that. And it's not easy. You really, really got to plan, and shit can hit the fan very quickly. And you got to have an exit plan to get out of here. That needs to be an essential part of your plan. Now, Justin, you chose São Paulo, I guess, although you're moving around a little bit to stay in as a home base. Why São Paulo?
Yeah, that's a good question, Phil. You know, I haven't decided permanently on Sao Paulo State, but I do like it a lot for the climate being similar to where I am in Canada, but just a little better. It has a little bit of everything. It's got Sao Paulo, super multinational, but it also has a lot of other quiet cities just outside. And, you know, within arm's reach is the beach as well. So I have no complaints here, but I'd really like to go see some other states and, you know, really thrush out my options before I really make a permanent decision. I think that's really important too, is to really take your time here and figure out where really strikes out to you. Right now, I love Sao Paulo, but I'm really looking forward to seeing some other places when my time allows.
I feel you, and I'm gonna put something here on the screen in just a second if I can get it going. There it is. All right, 1 second, people. Give me a second. Live podcasting. There you go. There's Brazil, folks. It's not a small country. In fact, it's the largest country in Latin America. And I say this a lot on the podcast because some folks don't have a sense of that. It's almost if you take the US or Canada and just flip it instead of west to east, north to south, it's more or less the same, region that you're covering. It's a lot of area. So if you're coming to Brazil to visit, and maybe you don't like a spot, check out another spot. Maybe you don't like that spot, check out another spot. The cultures are very different, especially, Justin's down here near Sao Paulo. I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen, but we're in that little brown area towards the south, which is Sao Paulo. A little bit north of that is Rio. Once you go past Rio and there's Minas Gerais, this light kind of lilac color, and you get to Bahia, the purple, then you're in the Northeast, and that's a totally different culture. I went to the Northeast for the first time last year. I didn't want to come back to Sao Paulo. I would live there if it weren't for the weather. It's way too hot for me. But it's a totally different culture. And then if you go south of Sao Paulo towards Paraná, Santa Catarina, Rio Grande do Sul, you got some cities there where they still speak, excuse me, they still speak a dialect of German. It's very European influence down there, a lot of German influence down there, Swedish, Dutch. There's some cities in the very south. There's a city called Gramado that if you saw it, you think, oh, this is like they stole like the set of Annie. If you look at this, Justin, it looks
Yeah,
like you went to
absolutely.
look like you went to Switzerland. So Brazil is many Brazils. When people see pictures like that and you say, yeah, that's Brazil too, they're like, what? But then if you switch that up to Salvador, Bahia, and it's like, oh, what the hell? Gorgeous city too, beautiful city. Salvador,
Absolutely.
Bahia.
The South has a big appeal to me, being from a European heritage myself, and
Yes.
it being so huge is a huge appeal. I think for a lot of people, it's Latin America's superpower, economic superpower. But there's also huge variety in culture and huge variety of terrain and cities you can explore. So it's a huge draw to Brazil. Absolutely.
Yeah, look, there's São Paulo, guys, where Justin is sort of headquartering. That's my headquarters, São Paulo. And even São Paulo, I tell people, people come here and they get frightened by how many buildings. It's this mega concrete jungle. But if you see this picture, it's a nice picture to show that there's areas of the city that are more houses. Where I live, it's definitely like a green area. Because as much as I love the concrete jungle, I got to get out of it after the day is through. So it's a city that's
Absolutely.
like it's gorgeous, it's fun, it's amazing, but you really need more than like a day to explore it because every neighborhood is so different. And of course, I gotta give Rio de Janeiro some love. It's not my favorite place on planet Earth, but then you have Rio, amazing city. You get Recife. A lot of expats end up in Recife. We're doing a little mini tour, Justin, of Brazil. Recife, people that go there love it. That's in the very northeast. So if you don't like that cold weather or hot weather, don't go there. Curitiba is a city that a lot of people love. It's considered a very sustainable city in the south. So there's a lot to explore here, just like any huge country. I mean, I have friends. I'm probably, if you guys are American, you probably know people that have never visited the 50 states just in America because it's so big. America's so huge to visit all 50 states. So imagine you have a whole lifetime living in a country and you haven't visited all the 50 states. Brazil is probably going to be similar, even though it's
Yeah,
got
and
half the states, but the terrain. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, and no, if you don't mind, I was just going to say, it can also change so radically within such a short distance. I'm in a small city called relatively small city compared to Sao Paulo, called Campinas, north of Sao Paulo, about an hour and a half drive, and
I love Campinas.
it's very close, but the vibe is completely different. Very laid back, very city energy still, but a lot more laid back, less multinational, and yeah, it's just like within Sao Paulo as well, block by block. As you know, Phil, things can change very quickly down there too. So yeah, very diverse country, absolutely.
I love Campinas, man. I was telling Justin, we were talking over the weekend, that if I had to do it over, I would move to Campinas. I would start in Campinas and then I'd probably stay a
Yeah,
little bit. in this
And
part of
if you don't mind, Phil, I just wanted to add really quickly. I totally agree that Campinas would be a great starter city for people who wanted a little bit more of a local feel, but maybe a bit less of a huge, possibly intimidating city than Sao Paulo. You know, I never felt intimidated in Sao Paulo because I was always so welcome there. But you know, if you're looking for something just a little more chill, a little more easy to get your bearings in, and maybe you're not used to the city, it's a great place to be. I love it here.
I agree with you, and really good weather. And I love this park, Taquaral Park. It's just one of my favorite places to go. You know, so sometimes I'll just go to Campinas and stay there over a weekend, have some good food, enjoy the nightlife. And yeah, and the thing with Campinas is that it's just a regular sized city. You know, when we think about like, because if you live in São Paulo city long enough, you start to just get used to it, but it's abnormal. Like you shouldn't get used to it because no city should have like, if you count the metropolitan area, it's about 20 million people. In the city, it's only about 11. I say only, but it's about 11 million people. That's insane. It really is. Like I sometimes I've taken buses before. I've been on the bus for at least 3 hours and I'm still in the city. Like just going from one side, like from the west side to the east side of the city. So when you go to Campinas, it just feels like a regular city, like Philadelphia. You know, Philadelphia's got what, like 1.5 million people. That's more or less the size of Campinas, just a regular, normal city that you would find anywhere in the world. So it makes it a little bit more laid back. It's a little cleaner, a little safer, etc., etc. So really cool
Yeah,
place.
a really good way of putting Sao Paulo is, you know, every neighborhood in Sao Paulo is like its own city completely. It's very
Oh yeah.
deceptive on the map. It's very deceptively huge. You know, a place that looks right next door on the map is everywhere is at least an hour drive away in Sao Paulo. So it's very deceptively huge. It's hard to comprehend.
My This is from 2010, but the neighborhood I live in has 54,000 people. It's a small town, you know, which is crazy. That's a lot of folks. Like Butantã is really, 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 really big. It's 4,000, what, 4,000 square kilometers. Uh, the Oh no, I'm sorry, 12 kilometers, 12 square kilometers, 4,000 square kilometers, a lot. 12 square kilometers of neighborhood. So that's a lot of neighborhood. Um, so let's get into, well, actually, let me give a couple of shout outs before that. You got a buddy of yours here, Cody is King, and he says everything you're saying is bullshit. He said, obviously, you found some pussy down here, and that's why you're staying. So you never know. So Cody is King.
Sounds like the typical small mind I was trying to escape in my old town there. So sounds
Oh
pretty
man,
typical.
shots fired! Shots fired! And we got
There's
Travelmatic.
a lot more to life than women, dude. So I don't know what to tell you.
And here we go. Travelmatic, who's been following the channel for a long time. Good brother. He's been on the show too. How is he with learning a language? Most people are intimidated by the language, causing not to visit. Great question, Travelmatic. So tell us your Portuguese
Absolutely.
journey.
Yeah, actually, I've heard from a lot of people that a lot of people struggle with Portuguese very hard, or they pick it up really quickly. And for some reason, I seem to be one of those people that pick it up really quickly. You know, I've never been a math guy. I've always been a language guy. And yeah, just it came pretty natural. You know, I'm still working through the grammar, expanding my vocabulary, but you know, a lot of Brazilians told me they were pretty surprised that I'd only been here for a total of 4 months speaking the way I am. So I've got a long way to go, but also Portuguese is a very flexible language with many different dialects here. So you know, they say a lot of Brazilians don't understand other Brazilians. So I don't know if that's just being in a multinational part of Brazil or not. But yeah, I found it very easy. And probably about
And
85% of the people I speak with understand. So
And what are you using to study? Are you taking private lessons or using any program or just listening and repeating? Like, how are you learning?
No, amigo. Same programas. Apenas aprender na rua.
All
No,
right.
I've just been learning on the street, man. Talking with people. I've been very hungry to meet new people here, and it's very easy to get into conversations here. So, there was a bit of a curve with the listening end of things, understanding other people, but yeah, I've just learned it all from talking and meeting new people. Easy.
Cool. And that's one thing, guys. If you have a little bit more difficulty with language, I would recommend studying up a little bit. If you speak some Spanish, you could what do you call it? Kind of transfer it into Portuguese. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's the closest. It's like a cousin of Portuguese. So if you speak some Spanish, you can probably start picking up some Portuguese. But it is a difficult language grammar wise. And a lot of Brazilians will say, like, man, Brazilians can't even speak Portuguese right. So you're doing well. Don't even worry about it. And another thing that can become an issue is when you travel, like we said, it's a huge country. So the same way, like, I teach English down here. And as you can tell by my accent, it's a bit more of a Northeast American accent, Philadelphia, New York region. And then you have students that end up in Texas or they end up in Alabama or Louisiana, and they're like, we couldn't understand a thing because you got the Southern accent, they talk with their mouth closed, blah, blah, blah. So it's the same thing when you're down here. The listening sometimes can be difficult because if you travel to a different region, you're going to get drastically different accents, different jargon, different vocabulary, to the point where even Brazilians don't always understand each other. Um, and then Sao Paulo, for being a very multinational city, but also a multicultural city. In the 1970s, there was a boom of migration to Sao Paulo from the Northeast. The Northeasterners built this city, basically. The metros, everything. I mean, they really built this city. And they're here in mass. And they have their accents. It's difficult sometimes. Sometimes I'm listening to somebody talk to me here in São Paulo. I'm like, can you repeat that? Because I don't know anything you just said. I don't know what you just said. So it's a challenge because of that, because of the regional accents. It can be a real challenge, really. Doing the listening part. But Brazilians are so friendly and they love to hear you try to speak Portuguese. They love to also try to speak English if they find out that you're
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's never not going to be an opportunity for you to speak down
Yeah.
here, and that's the
You
best way to
know,
learn, guys.
if you don't mind me butting in here, Phil, I was actually going to say there have been many times where all I want to do is just have a quiet beer by myself because I'm exhausted, I'm working, or I'm just overwhelmed from all the action here, and it's almost impossible even to do that because just from having a coffee or having a beer, you have people coming up to you asking what sometimes all you say is hola, and they just immediately ask in English, where are you from? So
Yeah.
it's really hard to escape how nice they are. It's amazing, but then there's always the 2% of the time where you just want a quiet beer and you got a crowd of people wanting to talk with you. So it's pretty wild, man. It's a bit of a shock, and that was a big reason why I wanted to stay away from the apps and language schools, because I really just wanted to focus on learning practical Portuguese that I would use in situations that I'm commonly in, right? And
Exactly.
I think one last big point I wanted to make was, don't be confident with speaking poorly here, because you could, I pretty much just accepted that I could be here for 5 years and people are still gonna know Portuguese isn't my native language, right? But as long as people know you're trying and you have a good sense of humor about yourself, you're able to laugh at yourself a bit, everyone's super friendly and receptive, and yeah, you'll be surprised. Absolutely. Don't be afraid about the language. It's not
Oh,
something to be afraid of here.
and that's such a good tip, man. You just have to be able to laugh at yourself, and also just realize you're in the country. Try to speak the language. Americans,
Yeah. Huge.
sometimes get a bad rap for being bad tourists, and I can understand it because I know a few Americans that are down here and have been down here for a while and don't speak a word of Portuguese. I'm like, how?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, and especially when
And
Americans love to say English only. You're in America, speak English. But then when you travel to another country, you don't try to, respect their culture and speak their language. Come on, give an effort.
absolutely, Phil. And if I may add this too, coming from Canada, our culture is, Canada is only 150 years old. So essentially our culture is everyone's culture, all the immigrants that come to Canada, right? And there is a huge population of people not from Canada who don't even try to speak English. And it's the most, I find it extremely insulting when I'm in Canada. And
I
so
agree.
I really made it a huge priority of mine to not be that guy in their country. And they really, you can tell they're really appreciative of it. I know some people who don't really speak and people don't really talk to them that much, right? But even though I speak poorly, but I'm trying to speak and I make it obvious that I'm trying to learn their language, they love it. So
Yeah, most people will do that. Most people really love it if you're trying. I had a similar experience, Justin, when I went to Paris. I don't speak a word of French, but I learned like 10 phrases. And just for trying, like I was like a superstar over there. They loved it. They were like clapping for me when was able to order like a juice for breakfast in French. They
absolutely.
were like, they're like, Julie, Julie. And I felt like a star, like a superstar. But it
Yeah,
doesn't
no, it's
take a lot.
very similar here.
Yeah, and they're willing, like, I know the French get a bad rap, but I agree with them. Like, we're in France, speak French, so they get a little bit of a bad rap for that. But you know what? My experience was when I tried to speak French and they saw I was struggling, they would start in English and try to help me out. Like, they're not against speaking English. They just are like, you're in our country. At least respect that we speak this language. So I think that's such an important thing. Now, I want to get
Absolutely.
into some nitty gritty stuff and then talk a little bit about last week when you were going like insane. But before we get into the insanity, let's talk about like
Oh yeah,
just some more logistics stuff. Okay. If somebody's considering
absolutely.
coming down here, just ballpark figure, let's say nothing extravagant, just like, nice apartment, nice area, nothing too crazy. What are you thinking as far as financial? How much should somebody save up, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, I think it definitely depends on your employment situation. I'm very
Hmm.
lucky to be doing what I'm doing and be well established in my business. And it definitely depends on the exchange rate. But for myself, being a Canadian personally, I really wouldn't want to be down here with less than three, around $3,000 a month. I really wouldn't want to be down here with less than that. Of course, it's always great to
Which
have more and more security, but yeah.
right now 3,000 a month is how many reais? I think it's times five, right? About 15,000 reais, more or less.
Nope, that's the American dollar. Right now, the Canadian dollar
Oh,
is trading at 3.6 reais per $1. So I'm looking
oh,
at
okay.
around 10,000 reais a month. Yeah,
Okay, but that's pretty decent for a single person. That's pretty decent price. I would go with that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I
yeah.
don't eat out every day. I love to cook. Groceries are really cheap here. The first time I really went grocery shopping, I was shocked that $100 lasted me 10 to 15 days here. So it really depends on your lifestyle out here. Like the first time I came out here, I stayed in a hotel and was eating out every day, and I blew easily $5,000 a month, easily, probably more. I didn't really keep track because I budgeted for it, but yeah, it just all depends how you live. It can really change dramatically just depending. But yeah, as far as living like a regular person out here, I'd say $3,000 Canadian, 10,000 reais a month is a pretty good number to start with.
I agree with that number. It's a good number. Although things are getting expensive down here. But the world is having economic problems. Brazil is
Yeah.
not escaping it at the moment.
Well, to give you a little perspective, Phil, sorry to interrupt you there, but
No, fine.
in Canada here, we're paying $50 for about half a pound of meat, maybe like 1 pound of meat. Two big ribeye steaks is $50 to $60. But just a couple days, about a week ago, I got 2 kilograms of grass-fed beef for, barely $16 Canadian. So it may be hitting hard here. It is hitting hard all over the world, but definitely more so in other places, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And when we're talking lifestyle, guys, I think that's a really important point to make clear is that, there's the tourist lifestyle and then there's the living here lifestyle, and it's totally different. When I first got here, I was living in a neighborhood called Moema, which is considered kind of a,
Yeah,
not super
Moema's
rich,
nice.
but, an uppity neighborhood of São Paulo. And a little bit more expensive. It's close to one of the most famous parks in the city, Ibirapuera Park, which is here on the right side of your screen.
Beautiful
And
park.
beautiful park. So it's a little bit more expensive. Beautiful neighborhood. And what was I doing? I was trying to replicate what an American lifestyle would be: living in a loft, walking to work, live by the park, blah, 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 blah. But then I realized, what am I doing? Like, I'm spending so much money on this apartment and like showing, no, well, I don't want to say I was showing off, but living comfortably, let's say first world. And then it took me about like 2 years here to get comfortable enough to be like, I don't need that much. And then I started befriending more Brazilians and noticing they're always traveling and they're here and they're there and they're rarely in their house. And if they are, they live with their whole family. So the house is just like this base, but it's not like in the US where like, let's invite people to our house to have a dinner party. Like, you don't have that much culture of that culture. You'll have like a barbecue on the weekend, but it's not, but it's in the afternoon and everybody's outside drinking beers, but it's not the same style as in the US. So I had to get that out of my head. And then when I did, that's when I started living a little bit more minimalist. Like, I still like my, bougie stuff every once in a while. I moved to this neighborhood now, which is Moema, which is Butantã, which you can see is way greener. But I live, in, I'm not going to show you my house, but basically, something similar to this, my neighborhood. It's way less expensive. It's more down to earth, Actually, I live very close to a favela here that I'm in and out of all the time. There's rich parts of my neighborhood. There's middle class, working class parts of my neighborhood. There's the favela part of my neighborhood. And I love it so much more. And you end up spending less and enjoying the country more because then you have money left over to travel, money left over to go to like a cool show, live music. There's so much to do here. You go crazy with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've got a quick point to add there, Phil, before you move on. There is a lot of wealth inequality here. So you can end up paying a lot more just to be in the Gucci neighborhood. But, you can end up paying, you can live a very comfortable upper middle class lifestyle and it's still at a very reasonable price down here.
I agree.
We have ranges for everyone here, for sure. Like, you can live extremely cheap in some other neighborhoods that are, like you say, like some are closer to the favela. I don't, it's, you got to know your areas and where is safe and where isn't, and you got to be a bit smart out here. But you can live as Gucci or as cheap as you want out here. There's something for everyone. Absolutely.
Yeah, like you want to live not real bougie, Vila Nova Conceição. That's the most expensive square meter in São Paulo. Beautiful neighborhood. But, you're not going to find any apartment here for less than 5,000 reais, which if you're going US dollar, maybe not that expensive, about $1,000 per month, but it's going to be small space. It's going to be a small space for 5,000. You want these nice big apartments, that's going to be at least 10,000, 12,000 and up. So it's very expensive. But
and the key is to think in value and square footage, like you're saying. You can live in a very similar neighborhood and get a way better price per square foot easily. A couple neighborhoods I really like in Sao Paulo myself are Vila Buarque and Higienópolis. It's kind of like a younger, it's kind of like a younger up and coming neighborhood, but it's it's still It's really nice, really safe, really clean, but also like crazy value, really disproportionate value. Great location, close to Avenida Paulista and Huagusta, and they have a lot of really nice bars, rooftop bars, really close by there as well. So I mean, it's got a little bit of everything. So one piece of advice, if you are going to stay in Sao Paulo, is take your time to look through some different neighborhoods, because there's a huge difference from neighborhood to
I
neighborhood.
agree. This is near my house, so you have this favela over here. This is inside the park, but I'm like on the left of those buildings right there. So again, yes, what he said, guys, is so important. I'm always a champion for São Paulo because I think it's like the city that people neglect. Everybody just talks Rio and Salvador, but São Paulo is incredible. But like what Justin said is so true. As much as I'm a champion for São Paulo, there are neighborhoods here that I would never live in. And actually, one I lived in for like a month when I was between houses. And I was depressed over there. I was like, I would never live here because it's so different. Vila Buarque is where it's been renovated. It didn't used to be this cool, man. It's got a lot
That's
of
what I've
little
heard.
bars, a lot of bars, a lot of cool apartments, some older apartments, which I give people this tip. If you're looking for an apartment in Sao Paulo, you see this yellow one on the side here. Um,
Oh yeah,
it doesn't look that amazing on the outside, but then when you go inside, it's
yeah,
gorgeous with these huge wooden floors, spacious. It's not like these
absolutely.
new style apartments, right? The building looks beautiful on the outside, but you're living in a cubicle, you know?
Yeah,
Like these
yeah.
apartments, if you
I
go
got a
inside,
place.
go ahead.
Oh yeah. So, sorry to cut you off there, Phil. No, I just wanted to quickly reiterate what you said. My first apartment in Villa Barque here, outside of the building looked a little sketchy, to be honest. Right beside a park,
Mhm.
like a couple blocks away, there were a fair few homeless people. But then you get inside, and you would never know you were in Brazil. You're right in an American apartment with a rooftop pool, conference area, big office. It's, looks can be very deceptive in Brazil. Absolutely.
They can be just like that place I showed you, that spot that we're gonna be at. It doesn't look that great. Let me see if I can get you the outside of the building here. Oh, you can see a little bit of it here. Well, that's an old picture. That's from 1976. But the building doesn't look that amazing from the outside. And then when you go in there, you're like, oh my God, it's cool. There's all this stuff happening inside. Yeah, this is the street where it's going to be at. So it's a very lively street. But really, 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 guys, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a building by its exterior here in Sao Paulo. And then for me, it's just a matter of like you actually get to meet the real Brazilians, because if you go to these rich neighborhoods, you're going to get these one percenters that have no connection with the rest of Brazil. They live in a bubble inside of a bubble, or you're going to get more expats that are living there. So, like, why did you leave home? Like stay in Canada, stay in England, stay in America. You came to Brazil. It doesn't mean you gotta like live in the favela, although I respect people that do that. I have friends who are inside the favela and they love it. You don't gotta go down to that level if you don't want to. But I feel better since I moved to Butantã, since I'm around like regular folks and I can walk around the street at any time and just meet people that are on my level and are just real. Like these are the real Brazilians, the people that get up in the morning, take the bus, go to work, come back. They like their barbecue, they like their beer, and they're having fun. Little shout out before we continue because we got Carla here and she's saying hi.
Carla.
She said she knows we understand each other, bro. We got Travelmatic saying that Cody, I'm moving to Brazil because of a woman, so I get it. So, so for some people, it is the love. Okay, it is
Yeah.
they fall in love down here and they end up moving. Now, tell
Well,
me.
and I mean, it may be worth just briefly touching on, the values of the women here are a lot different. I come back to what I said at the beginning where, you're really valued a lot more for who you are here, not what you are. You know, it's not about what you're wearing, what you're driving. It's really just about being a genuine person and finding who you need to be around. You know, it's a completely different value system to the point where it's almost hard to explain because I'm still wrapping my head around it. I've been pretty focused on my work and you know, staying focused down here and establishing myself. But I can tell you, there's a lot less friction in the dating world here than there is in the western, well, in the northwestern part of the world. Absolutely.
But I will say this, I'll add a little addendum to that, is that yes and no. Like it is about more about who you are and what you are, but at the same time, you can't negate the fact that you're an expat, that you're not from here, and people pick up on that. So when you do
Absolutely.
come down, folks, please just play it safe with that, because that's the one thing about Brazilians, that they're so kind, they're so warm, but
It's
they
easy to
also,
rope you in.
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but one thing really quickly, Phil, is, well, what I noticed is, you know, I'd be at a bar talking to people, and it was very clear who was trying to manipulate me and who wasn't. You know, because you know the people who are trying to manipulate you out here, be the men or women, they really, Brazilians wear their heart on their sleeve, right? So like, you're, you know, as long as you're an intuitive person and you understand people, you know, I have a sales background, so maybe I'm a little better at that than other people, but you know, I really find within the first 5 minutes you can figure out pretty quickly what most people's intentions are. I haven't had many problems with that so far myself, but knock on wood, knock on wood.
Yeah, yeah, but I unfortunately had some issues with that when I first came down here, because people will sneak in, and you know, as much as I love Salvador, Bahians are masters at it, because even for Brazilians, Bahians are like extra when it comes to that. Like in America,
Oh,
we call it
jeez.
southern hospitality, right? We say that in the
Yeah,
US, you know. And so they'll feed you and they'll dance and they'll smile and they'll laugh, and then you're not even realizing that you're paying for somebody's drinks all night until you get home and you're
absolutely.
like, wait, did I just spend $100 on some person I don't even know buying drinks? Because they're, so you gotta keep your guard up on some level
Yeah,
down here, but at
you
the
got to
same
be
time,
selective. You got to be really
it's
selective with who you keep in your circle here. Absolutely, and you can afford to be picky out here as an expat, right? It's you
you
know,
can.
you're kind of, you're the sought after person here, and it's, you know, for some people it can take a long time to get used to that dynamic, but yeah, you just need
Yes,
to be careful and really really vet your people, really vet your inner circle. You can have an
I
outer
agree.
circle here and an inner circle. Yeah,
And a lot of that has to do with what Justin mentioned a little bit ago about the difference in social status. The wealth gap here is incredibly big. So
absolutely.
whether you like it or not, like I don't make that much money. Like around what Justin was saying is more or less, you know, what I'm working with as far as, you know, living comfortably, which for the average Brazilian is a lot of money. For me, it's just like middle class. It's just like, you know, I can eat out when I
Exactly.
want. I can travel every once in a while, but I still got to work every day and watch my spending at the end of the month. It's not like I'm just,
Yeah,
you know, put it on the black card. I'm not living that life. But for the
yeah,
average Brazilian, where the minimum wage is like 1,000 and some reais, and the average Brazilian who's making 3,000 a month or 4,000, I'm talking in reais, Brazilian currency, and probably will never make more than that in their life because they've just hit the ceiling for their skill level. What I make is scary, like as
yeah.
far as how much, like there's a site called Nubio or something like a Nubi, where they have an app on there where if you put in your salary, it tells you where you are as far as like the percentage of wealth in the city of Sao
Oh, that's
Paulo.
interesting.
It's scary when I put my salary in there, dude. I'm almost a one percenter. I'm like, how? You know, like
Yeah,
I'm like in the 5 percentile of like wealth in this city. And I'm like, that's
yeah,
crazy. Cause like I
yeah,
would be in the US, somebody making like 2,000 a month, like average 3,000. Like, okay, like I can live okay off of that, just me. I'm very minimalist, but I'm not like bling, here and blinging over there. I'm just living a nice, comfortable life. So unfortunately, it's. I mean, I don't want to say it's their fault. It's just like how the country's built. You have a lot of people that
Yeah,
have little, and then when they see that you have a little bit more, but that's a lot for them. So they may want to take advantage of that. So you need to be a little bit careful about talking about
absolutely.
finances. Talking, when I go out, I usually dress down.
Yeah, the clothes you wear. I just wanted to mention that real quick because, I do enjoy wearing nice clothes. And, even just wearing, what I consider to be dressing down, people say, oh, gringo suave, and I'm like, oh man, I'm just wearing shorts and a t-shirt, but, yeah, it's very different down here, so you got to be real careful. I mean, most of the women I've dated here actually come from very wealthy families, so that I know just so that I know that they're not just after me for that, right? And you can do that here. It's there's like I said, there's something for everyone, but you got to be really careful because it really is a different world. And like they say, it's not a stereotype. You got to be careful walking around at night. And because for a lot of the people who are making 1,000 AIs a month or even less, you can be a target depending on where you are, right? So you got to be smart. I'm lucky to be
Look
a
at this.
martial artist my whole life and know how to read people. So I've done well, but you got to be careful. Absolutely.
Look at this, guys. I'm putting 10,000 here for a salary in São Paulo. I'm going to calculate.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm in. Let me see. I make more than 97% of the people in your state. I
Oh my
make more
God.
than 98% of Brazilians. That's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
insane. Yeah.
And that's
I mean,
10,000. That's just 10,000. And that's São
yeah,
Paulo. Now imagine if I want to live in like Bahia's, which a lot of people love Bahia. They move up there. Look at this. I
like
bet
Sao
you that.
Paulo is a very upper class state, a very rich
Yeah,
state. It's kind of the economic hub of Brazil. Like I'm used to $8,000 a month, $6,000 to $8,000 a month, not going all that far in Canada,
exactly.
right?
Look how that
And so
changed.
here it's so disproportionate. It's obscene.
Look at that. For Bahia, it's you are making more than 99% of the people in Bahia. And let me just look at Rio. Rio's
Yeah,
an expensive city. Let me see. Calcular Rio.
yeah, that's a good one
90,
to compare as well.
98%. So if you make 10,000 reais a month, which is in American dollars, it's about $2,000 uh, a month.
Congratulations, you've won.
You've won. You're earning more than 98% of the people in the state of Rio de Janeiro. It's crazy. So look at this. Teachers make around 2,000 reais a month. A doctor makes around 6,000. A judge is the one that's making a lot of money, and you are making 10,000. That's insane. So you really have to be careful with that, guys. It kind of sucks to be like that, but you just do, because it's just
Yeah,
like even a child in a candy store and say, "Don't touch," like good luck with that.
absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, and that's why I say it's good if you just got to be aware of your surroundings. Like I go out a lot. I go to bougie places where I dress up and I'm like all glamour and this and that and the third. But I know where I am. If I'm in my neighborhood or if I'm going to the favela, obviously I'm not going to dress like that, and I'm going to speak more Portuguese than I am English. Sometimes I got to flash the English card to get some things done. Sometimes I got to flash the Portuguese card to get some things done, and it just is what it is. Now, let's just get a little bit into your insanity from the week before. Like, what are some of the stresses that you were going through as far as trying to get a foothold in this country?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I couldn't really figure out why, but for the first 2 months that I was here, I arrived in early January of this year. And yeah, for some reason, I don't know if it was the food or just I don't know what it was, but I just found myself exhausted 24/7 at a period where I really had to be on the ball. I was dealing with, my business is very seasonal in Canada. So, coming at the end of, the winter is my off season. So I basically came to Brazil at one of the worst times for myself, but I had to get out. I was originally planning on coming in, October, November, but I had some extenuating circumstances. So, I was dealing with coming out of the off season and not having too much work. I was lucky to have some consulting clients with my other business, but then at the same time, I was unexpectedly dealing with some squatters in my apartment that I'm renting out in Squamish. So that was a nightmare, floating their rent. But I was in, like I say, play chess, not checkers. I thought 5 moves ahead with them and managed to kind of outfox them a bit and get them out. So, and that was only just this March that I got them out. So, I'm still kind of getting my bearings, but also, partying on the beach and partying with all my friends in Sao Paulo didn't help for that first little bit there. But, I just had a lot on my plate. I was moving to a new country, and on top of that, I was having some logistical and business issues on top of that. So, I was really trying to decide what city I wanted to be in longer term, and that was just impossible dealing with all the problems I had back in my home country. So, huge piece of advice is just make sure you have your ducks in a row before you really make the move out here, or even just to come as a tourist, because you're not really going to enjoy yourself the way you should be. And then when you couple on, a new place, new language, 24/7, different food that you may not be digesting perfectly, let's just say, it can be a lot on your body, right? So, and your mind. So, you just gotta be careful. But I managed to stay strong, moved to Campinas where I had fewer distractions, and now just a couple weeks of focus later, I'm in a much better position now. So grateful for that. Absolutely.
Well, we're getting to the closing of this interview, but you brought up a great point, which I want to just touch on, expand on a little bit. But here's our tri-dimensional chess, because that's what you really got to play down here. If anybody's a Trekkie out there, I'm a big Trek nerd.
You're playing 3 chess games at once out here. You're playing 1 game of chess with your home country. You're playing 1 game of chess with the people here, and you're playing another game of chess with just the country itself, dealing with visa stuff, customs, different, everything.
But you're also playing a game of chess with yourself. Because, guys, let me tell you, this is my personal experience, but I know other expats that have been through the same. Because you come from a culture, most of us come from either the US, Canada, and Europe, either England or German. There's a couple German expats down here. So we come from a culture where everything's very regimented and correct and quote unquote, everything's just in its place and works like it should work. And then you get down here to Brazil and everything's just loose. And my experience when I came down here, Justin, is that I went insane. I tell this story so many times where I lived in Moema, but I lived in a city called Taboão da Serra, which is on the other side of the city. Wonderful city, by the way. I love Taboão da Serra. But before, there was metros and anything, when I first got here, there's a little bit of Taboão da Serra. It was a 2-hour ride home. So one night, it was raining. I had to take 2 or 3 buses to go home. And I just didn't feel like getting on a sweaty bus that's at rush hour, So my friend was like, let's have a drink. I was like, what? It's a Monday.
Oh, yeah, I see where this is going.
Yeah, in my mind, I was like, oh, it's a Monday. But, man, we sat down at the bar. We had drinks. The bar was a full little barzinho, they call it here, like little corner bar. Man, when I just got into that culture of like, oh, I can drink on a Monday, nobody's gonna judge me, because you do that in the U.S., you're an alcoholic. Who drinks on a Monday in the U.S.?
Yeah.
So, and I never drank. Like in the U.S., I was a very light drinker. I mean, like at college, I would.
I'm not a big drinker myself either.
Yeah, but then I got down here and I became a mini like drunkard for about a year, and just going out to crazy parties, not knowing. Sometimes I would wake up and be like, where the fuck am I? who did I have sex or not have sex with tonight? What
Swept
party?
away.
Yeah, like I was just swept away by the freedom that you have down here in Sao Paulo to like Justin was saying at the
Yeah,
beginning, to
me
just
too.
be yourself, you know. And and like we were talking about the people down here, like it sneaks up on you when you least expect it. And you're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I need to focus. And
Yeah,
I
like
woke up
even when I was pre-aware that I needed to focus for these first 2 months, like the second I got my
yes,
friends in front of me and we started hitting some bars, like it was done. I needed a month of partying, then I had a month on the beach. And then before I knew it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was 2 months. I really got to get back. And
yeah,
it's
it's
easy
it.
out here.
It's it with your life, and that's how I was. I was like I guess it was from October to it was about a year. And then I just remember one night I woke up in a hotel and I didn't know I kind of knew how I got there, but I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. And the next day I bought a TV. I was like, I just need to stay home, on the
Yeah,
weekends. And just I just cut everything out before I could learn how to enjoy Brazil without just screwing myself and ending up like I mean
yeah,
I've seen homeless people on the streets of Sao Paulo who were English speakers, and it's really scary. Like I was like, I do
it
not
is.
need my life to be that, but like they weren't like speaking English. They were I think one guy was Australian, and there was another guy that I'm pretty sure was Canadian living on the street. And
Yeah,
I'm like, what the hell? So
yeah.
it's
That's not going to be me. That's for sure. Yeah.
no, but the thing is, that's just a warning for some folks that aren't
Oh yeah.
prepared for how life is different here and how easy it is to just party and like you said, living comfortably. Okay, 10,000, but a lot of expats are making more than that. So if you're
Oh
rolling
yeah.
down here with 20, 30, or 40,000 reais a month,
Yeah.
you can do whatever the hell you want, and it's very easy to do whatever the hell you want, and before you know it,
Absolutely.
you can really waste your life down here. So you
Yeah,
really
and that's been a big thing. That's been a big thing for me is that I got to keep my goals in mind because I am making substantially more than 10,000 reais a month. I'm not rich by any means, but it would be easy for me to just live a Vegas life down here. But really, I got to keep my goals in mind, keep focused, know that I'm saving for a permanent house down here, get the citizenship by investment, and have goals. Like if you're coming down here, really, really set goals for yourself. And
you
yeah,
got to.
I can't stress that enough. And that's kind of what I'm going through right now is that little cleansing period that Phil was talking about. That's why I'm in Campinas. I don't know anyone here, so I'm just married to my work right now, and it's been working out great. There's groceries, gym, work, groceries, gym, work, and yeah, all good.
It's wonderful. And then once you get into the right vibe and the right mindset, I mean, one of the reasons also I moved to Butantan is because it's the suburbs. I feel like I'm half an hour from downtown, but I feel like I left the city in like as you like you
Yeah,
for a quiet listen,
the
nothing.
environment is huge.
Yeah, sound of nothing. Sometimes my neighbors get a little wild, but they're fun. Uh, but sound of nothing. Like if I was downtown, like like
Oh
a
yeah,
bunch of noises all the time, it's crazy. So I just needed to know thyself. They say, right? Know thyself. I know myself. I know that I'm a party person. If I'm in a party region, I'm gonna party till it's 1999. Right? I'm just gonna go off. So you got to
absolutely.
really be focused, like Justin said, set goals. Why are you here? Why do you want to live in Brazil and
Yeah,
not just travel every once in a while? Because then you can do whatever you want. Just travel, stay for a month, go back. But if you want to live here, why? You got to really ask yourself, why do you want to live here? What are the goals that you're setting for yourself while you're living here, and how you can live a balanced life while being down here? Because it's so easy to be swept away with the carnival of what Brazil
absolutely.
is. Very, very
And
easy.
just being like mentally sustainable too. Like I've never been a huge party person. I've always been kind of the quiet guy, always focused and very contemplative. But at the same time, that can almost be worse because I've been very hungry for more action and more connection. So like Phil
Mhm.
said, like you can just get swept away so fast, and before you know it, you've spent 8, $8,000 in a month, you know, and you're like, what happened? Right. And then you remember, oh yeah, rooftop bars every night. It's easy. It's easy.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, and that's where we get into this thing that we call like the honeymoon phase, and then like when it's over, it
Absolutely.
hits you hard. And before we close here, because I want to get into a different segment with you, it's very important to understand that, folks. If it's not clear already, when you're a tourist, everything's wonderful, and then when you live here and you got to deal with the paperwork, the bureaucracy, the paying the rent, taxes, blah 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 blah, it's rough. And some people have quit. Some people have not stayed in Brazil because they couldn't get past that year that it takes to like really establish yourself here. It's a difficult country to establish yourself in. But once you get past that, and then you figure out how to balance your life and see what you really want, is it like more connection with nature? Do you want to like surf more, get your body looking good? Because here, everybody, I mean, shit, even big people
Oh
looking
yeah.
good down here. Oh my God. Like everybody
Yeah,
looks good
that's a
down
lifestyle out here. Is fitness is huge out here. I've always been a very fit guy, and it's always
here.
been very easy to find friends at a gym here. Easy.
Yes, gym culture is very big. Like Brazilians like to look good and they like to feel good. So, maybe that's your vibe. Maybe your vibe is just like you want to be a digital nomad. So you're still working at your, from an international base, but you're here in Brazil because you want to be close to nature. A lot of people, I mean, Brazil's got nature. The nature here is like from another planet. So, you want to be close to nature. You want to be close to the animals, whatever. Figure out why you want to be here before you come here. Because if you don't know, Brazil will just sweep you into wherever the hell it wants to take you. Really good stuff. But Justin, because it's getting a little late, let me see if I press the right button here. It should be this button. Oh, yeah, that's my very
There you
dramatic.
go. Thanks for having me, Phil.
Oh,
Absolutely, it's been
no,
a
thanks for
pleasure.
having you. It's not over yet, brother. Because right now, you're about to play the Expat Challenge. The Expat Challenge, you got to take very seriously, because if you do not pass the Expat Challenge, that's when I call your buddy Justin Trudeau and I say, get your boy. Okay, he's got to
Oh
go back
no.
to Canada. Yes. And you got
Oh
to
no.
hang out with Justin Trudeau for like a whole weekend. Okay, and
Yeah, we
explain
got
to
a lot of other names for that guy here in Canada that
sure you
won't go well
do.
on
You got
YouTube.
to.
So I'll keep it to myself.
I'm sure you do. You got to spend a week with him if you don't pass this quiz. Lightning round. First thing that comes to your mind. Best
Oh
thing
God.
about Brazil.
The people. Easy.
That's an easy one. Worst thing about Brazil.
That's a tough one. Haven't found many bad things, but being in the bigger cities, I got to say maybe the noise, or also being in concrete buildings. If you don't have AC, you're going to be sweating. So I guess that could be it. But
True. Favorite Brazilian food.
ooh, my Instagram is Gringo na Chapa. So my favorite food is pão na chapa com requeijão, com certeza.
Oh my God! Wait, I gotta put that on the screen for the people. Pão na chapa. Oh look, it came up. Com requeijão. There it is, folks. Requeijão is kind of like a cream cheese thing that they love down here in Brazil. I'm not a huge fan of it, but there you go. I think you're the
Yeah, I
first
mean, for a
expat I
real
know.
food, for a real food, I would say feijão tropeiro. Kind of a Mineiro dish, but yeah, pão na chapa. Any cafe or any padaria I visit, it's pão na chapa, com certeza.
Yeah, the other one is feijão how do you say
Feijão
tropeiro,
tropeiro.
which I love too. I can never say it, but it's delicious. I love anything from Minas. Man, when I got to Brazil, I weighed 118 pounds. After a year,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was up to 147. I was up to 147. I gained a lot of weight here because the food is so good.
Easy.
And it's mostly
And
Mineiro.
most of their beef here is also grass fed too, which is just huge. Like the quality of meat, you notice that immediately when you come here. Very high quality, even in cheaper places.
Now, what's your least favorite Brazilian food?
Oh man, that's tough. I haven't really come across anything I don't like here. And I'd really have to think about it. I've had some fish with a lot of bone in it, But even then, that tasted amazing. Like it's pretty difficult to find food that I don't like here. I like everything, you know.
Well, you do gotta, in case you're not accustomed to it, guys, you do need to know that in Brazil, when they have shrimp, they don't take they usually don't take the
Yeah.
shell off. So just be aware of that. But I've gotten used to it. I know some people think it's nasty to eat it with the shell on. I just got used to it. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm pretty
mind.
fine with that too.
Yeah, or prawns, as our British friends say.
Yeah.
Let's see. Favorite drink in Brazil?
Ooh, cachaça de mel or
Cachaça
yeah,
de
no,
mel.
yeah, cachaça de mel. I gotta say, I think so. Or cachaça de canela também. Yeah.
Oh, canela I've had before. Yeah, it's really nice to drink
So for
canela.
people who don't speak Portuguese, that's cachaça, the national alcohol with either honey or cinnamon as well.
Yeah. Cachaça, I'm sure most people will know the caipirinha. You make caipirinhas with cachaça. And cachaça,
Yeah,
guys, it's just a spirit made from sugarcane, and they use it, of course, to make the national
it's
drink.
deadly.
Caipirinha with some cachaça. A lot of people like the caipirosca, which is with vodka. I never like that too much. I prefer
Yeah.
the
Also a
but
caipirinha. A caipirinha with
sake one
sake
is
as
pretty
well is
good. I
very
like
good.
the sake
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Although I'll give you guys a pro tip that I learned from a guy named Scott many years ago. He said, when I order cachaças, I always ask for less sugar because it's really sweet. And man,
Absolutely.
after he gave me that tip, I've done it ever since, and it changed my life. Like you really get to taste.
Pouco açúcar para
Yeah,
sempre.
pouco
Com
açúcar,
certeza.
pouco açúcar. You actually get to taste the spirit, because otherwise,
Yeah.
like Brazilians, by the way, they love
Oh yeah.
sugar, man. Like everything.
Absolutely.
I don't eat sweets down here that much because of how much sugar there is in it, and it's just way too much. So if you get in a cachaça, maybe you're diabetic or maybe you just don't like the taste of real sweet stuff, just say pouco açúcar, por favor, less sugar, please, and they'll do it for you. Best place you have visited in Brazil?
Ooh, hard to say. You know, I haven't seen nearly the places I want to visit yet, but it's got to be Ubatuba. You know, some people say it's a bit of a rundown beach town, but I mean, I'm not there for the city. I'm there for the beach and the surfing, and it is world class. You know, there's a reason Italo Ferreira lives there. You know, world champion surfer. The surfing there is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I've never been to Ubatuba, man, but I know a lot of people that love it. And most beach towns are like that. They're like, they're kind of simple. Like I really love this city called Ilha Comprida. It's, Long Island, and it's so cute and it's wonderful. And like the city isn't much, but it's like you're there for like the people and the beach, and it's a real laid back
Absolutely.
culture. So that's the one thing. Speaking of, just we're talking a little about changing a mindset. You start to really appreciate the simple things when you come to Brazil, because Brazilians, on some level, are simple people, and I hope that doesn't come off as pejorative, but it's just they're people that just enjoy human connection. They enjoy
Yeah.
just, hey, let's have a barbecue this weekend. And you don't need to
Yeah.
bring anything. Well, bring beer, obviously. But, just go in your sandals and your shorts. We're going to put on some samba. The meat's going to be cooking, and that's it. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't need,
Yeah.
like, even for dating, Justin, some people are like, I did a podcast on dating here on the channel. If you guys want to check that out. And it was with what? It was two women and me and Pete. So we kind of balanced it out. And all of us said the same thing. You don't got it on a first date. You don't need to take a girl or a dude to like some fancy
No.
restaurant. Just go to the park. That's a first date
No.
here.
And
Go to
that
Avenida
was
Paulista on a Sunday.
yeah. And that was a huge contributing factor to me saying, you know, people really value you for who you are, not what you are. Because in Canada and other G7 countries, like that's what you're being judged on is how much are you spending on that first date? You know, what are you doing? What are you picking her up in? And yeah, out here, it's really just about the conversation when you're dating. And
Yeah,
you know,
do
the
you have that
connection.
connection? Are you
Yeah,
creating
it's
a
not the
connection?
restaurant you're going to. It's not the extravagance you have. It's not the apartment you bring them back to. It's really
Yeah,
about the conversation.
And I had to learn that because, when I first started dating here, I would always take these dudes out to like these nice places and this and that and the third. And then they think you got money and then they
Yeah,
just want to like milk you for every cent you got. And then I realized, you know what? Let's go to the park. How about that for a first date? And
absolutely.
way better, way better. All right, moving on. What is your most overrated location or thing that you have found here in São Paulo? What is the most overrated?
Ooh, that's a really tough one. Um, oh God. Um, Man, yeah, I mean, if I'm being 100% honest with you, Phil, I haven't found many things very overrated here, because I do love it here. I really do. Oh, man. Yeah, you know what, Phil? I can't find anything right
Yeah,
now
not
that I
guessing. That's
find.
fine. Do,
Yeah.
do you want to take a guess at what the number one answer is from people in the podcast?
That's tricky, I mean, we've, I've been on that expat group for quite a few years now, and I
It's a
think there's
city.
a
I'll
lot
give
of
you a hint.
people who.
It's
Oh,
a
of course, it's going to be Rio de Janeiro, man. I mean, I'm one of the only gringos who hasn't been to Rio de Janeiro and has very little interest in going because it's full of gringos. I don't want to be around gringos. I came here to escape gringos, right? So, I mean, it's got to be Rio, but also. I did. I find that some people as well, they don't assimilate as well into the culture and they try to bring America mentality or American values to here. And I noticed a lot of people saying as well that the people are overrated, just because they don't fit in. You'll get some American or whatever coming in saying, "Oh, I really wish they would use more paper straws." And it's like, well, yeah, you got to go back to wherever you came from because you're in a different place and you got to accept that. So I'd say those are the two biggest things. Yeah, but
yeah,
if I
man.
wanted to come up with my own answer, it's the people. That's I've heard of that a lot from
I
people
love
who don't fit
here.
in.
You just got to know how to manage them because it's like sometimes it's
Oh
very
yeah,
superficial, guys. That's one thing that you will learn when you're here long term is that they're very friendly, but it's superficial. Like you'll exchange numbers, you'll say, well, we got to hang out again. And then the
that's
famous
true.
phrase, which I'm going to write here in the chat, vamos marcar. When somebody says that, or if somebody says, vamos se falando. Let's
Yeah,
talk or let's set a date. You're never going to see that person again. Trust me. Uh,
exactly.
and you learn that eventually. And so just realize that it's very superficial here. It's tough to make
Yeah.
real, like close friends here. But when you do, they're friends. Like they're people that are going to be there for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Within the first 2 weeks of being here, I had people that kept in touch with me the whole year that I returned to Canada. And just to be clear, I don't find the people overrated, but that's something that I hear very often for sure. So,
Cool, cool, cool. And let's move on. We got best place to chill in your city. Now, you started out in São Paulo and now you're in Campinas, so you can
yeah,
choose. Maybe you know São Paulo a little bit better than Campinas. What's the best place
yeah,
to hang
we'll
out?
we'll keep it to Sao Paulo, and I know a really good rooftop bar called Matisse Bar. And shout out to Hafa. I don't know if you're listening, man, but thank you for taking me there because it's a rooftop bar. It's a nice bar, but a lot of the rooftop bars in Sao Paulo are just very Gucci for the sake of being Gucci and extremely overpriced. And Matisse is very interesting, or Matisse, I think they pronounce it here, is very unique because you get a very wide range of crowd. You get younger, older people, you get young professionals, you get upper middle class, upper class, middle class people there, and it's a really good mix of people. Smaller venue with a nice outdoor area and
Oh, I
nice
think I know
dance floor
exactly
too.
where that
So.
is. I know exactly.
Yeah, it was very close to my first apartment here when I
Oh, I
came
know
this
where to
second
go on
time.
vacation.
It's a great location. Yeah, definitely go there, Phil. Absolutely, you won't regret it. Always a lineup, though. There's
Cool.
always a
I love
lineup.
it.
Absolutely, and that's for good reason because it's an amazing bar. It's one of my favorites. Absolutely. So shout out to Rafael Ponzqueza.
Favorite Brazilian musician or band?
Ooh. Uh-oh.
And you've been thinking the Brazilian music. It's a very musical country. You can't go anywhere without
Yeah, no.
hearing music.
Well, you know, I've heard so much music, Phil, but I don't know. I can't remember any of their names.
Is there
It's
like a
terrible.
style
But
that you like a samba, funk music, forró, sertanejo, any rhythm that stands out?
you know, I used to really not like funk for a while, but once I listened to a documentary on it and I understood a bit more about it, I gained a lot more appreciation for it. Some of it,
Woohoo!
obviously, you know, I really don't like a lot of it, but there is kind of a niche in there that I do really like. It's very unique music for sure.
I love
Um,
funk, man. That's like my favorite rhythm in this fucking country. When I came here, I was just like, it's so infectious. Cha, 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 cha,
Absolutely. It's
cha, cha.
infectious. You can't help but moving to that rhythm. And also there's just a lot of like I don't know what the genre, what you would call the genre, but there's just a lot of really awesome live beach music as well that's just chill but also high energy and with a really good rhythm. It's, you know, I've always been a very rhythmic listener, and I used to
Mhm.
actually play drums and bass in a past life. And yeah, so I always, you know, most Brazilian music I like. It's pretty hard for me to find music here I don't like. So
Sometimes we take a couple of the expats to the baile funk and they go crazy, man. The baile funk is insane. Look how
yeah,
many people, it's over 1 million people go to the baile in Paraisópolis, which is the biggest favela in Sao Paulo.
yeah,
Uh, and actually, I think it's one of the top five biggest ones in Brazil. But it's insane, man. It's
yeah.
so, so, so.
I haven't been lucky enough to find someone to take me there, but maybe that person might be you, Phil. I'm going to be back there,
Oh, yeah.
back in Sao
I went
Paulo in the
there.
next month. So if you want to take me, man, I'd die to go there. Absolutely.
We'll see about it because I kind of quit on it just because, like, after a while, it just gets it's too many people and it's like a bunch of young
Oh yeah,
people, and it's like I love youth culture, but not 1 million
different scene.
strong,
Yeah,
not a
not every
million.
day.
Yes, 1 million young people, and I'm like, oh my god, and they don't always know how to drink well. But it's fun at
Absolutely.
least once. You got to go to the baile funk. It's really fun, and it's so funny when I came to Brazil. These guys were like, because they're so curious. They're like, "Where are you from?" And they're like, do you like funk?" That was like one of the first questions they asked
Yeah,
me. And I'm thinking James Brown, Parliament. I'm like, I love
yeah,
funk.
yeah, yeah,
You know. And then I found out, oh, it's that funk. And man, the minute I
yeah.
listened to that rhythm, I was like, oh no, this is me. This is me.
And
Very
also
adult,
real
very
quick, Phil.
untouched.
Oh no, sorry to cut you off there, Phil. Yeah, very true. But also real quick, the
Good.
jazz here is
Oh
top
yeah.
notch jazz here as well. Yeah,
Oh no, the jazz musicians from here, or the musicians from here in general. You know, you got Milton Nascimento, who has one of the most beautiful albums with Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock. He's considered like a god in the jazz world in the U.S. I'll tell a quick anecdote. You know, I was working with this guy who was a music producer down here, and I trust that his story is true, just because he's a pretty reliable guy. And he told me, by the way, in case folks don't know who Milton Nascimento is, I'll put his picture up on the screen. The For me, like the top artist in Brazil and in the world. Oh, there's him with Wayne Shorter, and
yeah. No, I
he
recognize
told
that
me
face.
that when Milton, like he was in the studio in the US, and it was Wayne Shorter, in fact, and I think Hancock was there. And in walks Milton, and they stopped everything. They just bowed to the guy, like almost like Wayne's World. We're not worthy. We're not, because
Yeah,
Milton is
yeah,
just next level, like beyond next level, amazing stuff. But it's music that you got to sit down and listen to. It's not something you can put in the background. You got to sit
no,
down, get into the rhythm of what he's doing, and it's Milton is too much. In case I'm doing a lot of promoing here, but we do have a couple podcasts, guys. There's a playlist for the Brazil Expat Journal, so go through it. We have two that we did for top 10 Brazilian albums, which is really fun. So you're going to get a lot of, and we had a guy that, we have Pete, who's more rock and roll, Elisa, my friend Elisa, who's heavy into the jazz. We got my friend Lee was on there, he's a mix of like samba and rock and jazz and everything, and me, who's pretty eclectic. So you're going to get a good blend of Brazilian music to put on your Spotify playlist. So check that out. It's on the channel. And last question, Justin, so I don't keep you on forever, is word of advice for future visitors of the country. A word of advice. Doesn't have to necessarily be one word.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows. I mean, everyone always says in the expat groups that the language is key, but I really can't understate that enough. But to add on to that, don't be afraid to be imperfect out here. Be yourself. Take the opportunity to really let the people understand you, because it's a really unique place like that, and you don't have to have any barriers for yourself out here. You can be the truest form of yourself out here. So I guess my biggest advice is just show your true colors, be your full self, and you're going to find people who accept you out here, no matter who you are. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a mixed country, guys, and that's something else that I think before we go, I think it's important for people coming down here to realize is that much like the United States, they have that phrase, it's a melting pot. Although I prefer the idea of it being like a salad where you get the individual, you can still see the individual flavors, and Brazil's a salad. There's no one face of Brazil, just like there's no one face. You can't point to somebody and say he's American, because Americans, there's Black, there's Asian, there's indigenous folks, there's white folks, there's German descendants, Italian descendants, there's everybody. And Brazil is no different. You have the largest amount of Black folks, because during the slave trade, we got 4 million slaves came over here, so you got a huge Black population. You get the Europeans in the south, you get the indigenous. Sao Paulo is an Italian city. It's got the largest Italian. Brazil's the country with the most Japanese folks outside of Japan. Brazil has more Lebanese people in Brazil than there are in Lebanon. So there's a lot of Arabic culture down here, even with the food. So you're going to get everything. You're going to get the goths. You're going to get the gays. You're going to get the mega conservative. One thing I always like to point out, Justin, just to show the dichotomy of the country. Brazil's the country with the largest gay pride parade in the world, but it's also the country with the largest March for Jesus in the world.
Oh, wow. Yeah, what a dichotomy. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you get everything here. So I always tell folks, don't scoff at the country on your first time down here, because you're like, I didn't like this. Because it's like, imagine if you're going to the U.S. and you go to Nebraska and you get your whole opinion of America off of Nebraska. Maybe Nebraska's not for you. Or even if you go to New York, like I love New York. I would never live there, but maybe that's too much. It's like, it's too much going on. I need to lay back. So maybe Louisiana is the right place for you. Maybe you're better off on the West Coast, where it's a little bit more laid back, in California. So you got to have the same mentality for Brazil. Not every place is right for you. Take your time, like Justin is taking. Travel around a little bit. See what shoe fits. And I'm pretty sure, given the variety of this country, I mean, there's hippie villages out here where they worship extraterrestrials. You can live in a fucking like a hobbit house down here.
Yeah, a little ayahuasca commune as well.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone. And then just to quickly build on what you said there, Phil, apply that same philosophy to your circle of people here too, because I've always had the mentality that you can learn something from everyone, but here it's like an understatement. I've got young friends, old friends, high socioeconomic, low socioeconomic, and it's a totally different experience depending on who you're with. So, if you find that you're not gelling with kind of the typical crowd or what you're typically attracted to here for women or men or just for friends or whatever it is, don't be afraid to experiment, because you're going to get something totally different from all sorts of different people. So apply that concept to
Exactly.
people as well. Yeah.
Exactly. You gotta be versatile here. By the way, look, I put on the screen there, Varginha. That's a
Yeah.
city that had a similar, like a Roswell experience down there, and they built like a whole memorial to the extraterrestrials down there.
Yeah.
So it's crazy out here. And
I
what
was
Justin,
actually very close to going out there because I'm going to go to Belo Horizonte, and on the bus route from Sao Paulo to um, Belo Horizonte is Varginha, and I've got a couple Brazilian friends out there. Shout out Tiago and Lulu. Going to see you guys soon. And yeah, it's a huge UFO city where tons of supernatural stuff happened. And I believe
yes,
Carla is actually from there, who commented earlier, is actually from a city very close by there. And she told me about some pretty crazy experiences she had. So there's something for everyone.
yeah. Look at
Absolutely.
these. You got these ecological. That's the kind of things I was saying, like the little huts here, ecological villas. And what Justin said, also, guys, with the your friend circle here. I was a little bit sick about 2 3 years ago, and I had to go, to a lot of doctors. And two of my best friends were the ones that took me. One of them is Monica from England, and she's about my age, and the other friend is a friend of my little cousin who I just got close with. He's like what, 22, 23. It's like super range in age, but I love them both equally. They're both, and they both accompanied me to the hospital, to get my checkups. So, like Justin said, I
That's
have
awesome.
young friends, I have old friends, I have friends around my age, I have friends who are like in retirement age. And you learn so much from all these different tribes, all these different cultures, different
Yeah.
ways of living. You got to be a little open down here to just
Yeah.
experience. And I think
You
that's the
won't get
biggest.
the full experience if you're not radically open. Like one minute I'm talking to someone who looks borderline homeless, and then the next I'm going out with some pretty Gucci friends to some pretty Gucci places. So
Yeah,
you can have everything out here. It's from one minute to the next. It's amazing. Yeah,
it's
from
incredible.
one
And then,
block to the next.
yeah, and that's where, just to finish, is where we were talking about earlier, where you gotta be focused because of that. Because this country
Yeah,
will take you down the yellow brick road to wherever.
man, that's the best way of putting it. I couldn't have put it any better myself. Yeah,
Anyway, Justin, now it's for real. We gotta go. It's
yeah,
11:47 down here in Brazil, and I do work tomorrow. But I loved having you
absolutely.
on. I want to thank you, Justin, for being such a fan of the show, guys. I I do this podcast out of love, and I don't get anything out of it. I don't get paid. I don't get anything. It's just out of love, and just because I know how difficult it was my first 2 or 3 years here when there
Yeah,
wasn't any expat network. I had to figure it out on my own.
yeah,
So I don't think there's. I mean, we get listeners definitely. We get nice view counts on the YouTube, and every once in a while I'll be out somewhere in the East Bumblefuck, and I'll run into a gringo and say, "You're Phil from Phil in Brazil." I'm
yeah.
like, "Oh shit,
And
yes." And then when Justin met me, I felt weird at first because like he was talking to me like I was a celebrity, like, "Oh my god, I want to meet you." I'm like, "Oh shit." So that's really means
yeah,
a lot to me, even though I get weirded out sometimes, but it means a lot to me that you guys
yeah.
listen, that you guys
Well,
support the channel, that you appreciate what I try to do here in helping you guys get comfy living in this country. And if you come to Sao Paulo, you can reach out to me. Like I said, Phil Ray Music is where you're gonna get in touch with me a little bit faster and see a little bit more about my day to day. But that's really special, guys. So thank you very much. And thank you, Justin, because
yeah.
it took me by surprise. I'm like, does this guy want my autograph?
No, hey, sorry. No, well, I'm going to weird you out a little more and give people a little more context, Phil. It's because I've been on these expat groups even 2 years before I came out to Brazil, because I was originally going to come right before COVID, and then we all got restricted, without getting the shot. And so, I've been seeing you helping so many people on the groups. You're like you said, you were out here way long before there was any kind of support structure for expats, and you're a true Brazilian vet, man. So I'm really honored to be on your podcast, and yeah, for anyone else out there, shoot Phil a message. He's a super nice guy, and he'll answer, whatever questions you got. He's a super approachable guy. So
By the
absolutely.
way,
Really appreciate it, Phil.
do you want to share your, because I see on your name here you put your Instagram, but it cut out a little bit. It's, what is it? It's Gringo.
It's gringo _na_ Shapa. Gringo na Shapa, because I'm just a fried gringo out here. Absolutely. So yeah, anyone that wants to talk with me, anyone who's from Canada or the US, feel free to add me on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook under Justin Brown as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions or give any perspective anyone needs as well. I've always been a very contemplative guy, and always love helping people. Absolutely. I'd be honored to help you. So if you got a question, hit me up. No problem.
And there's a little bit of Justin's Instagram page. So I'm going to write that down here in the comments, but then I'll add it on the actual comment page once the video's up, because this live chat will go away once that's there.
Yeah,
but if
most of my activity has been on Facebook just for my businesses, but since everyone here is on Instagram, I'm gonna be spending a lot more time on there now that I'm here permanently. So yeah, hit me up there or on Facebook, either way.
There you go. Gringo underline or underscore na NA underscore Shapa, which is spelled with a CH. So it'd be like Chapa. Okay, Gringo underscore na underscore Chapa for the English speaking crowd. But all right, Justin, it was wonderful having you on. And we will talk soon. And either I'll be up in Campinas soon to visit you, because I do love Campinas, or you come down on the 30th, and everybody's welcome to come down on the 30th to check out the opening of the spot. Espaço 337. Follow us _ Espaco. Okay, with a C 337. We will be happy to have you down there. And
you
guys,
bet, Phil. It's been an honor to be here, and yeah, I'll be celebrating my birthday hopefully around the 30th as well. So definitely hit me up if you want to party and grab a beer. No problem. Let's do it.
So here's an outro music. Let me put on my NPR voice with the outro music. Wait up. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Brazil Expat Journal, the BJ you can trust. I appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe, share if you enjoy the content, which I remembered to say at the beginning of the show this time. So thank you to me for doing that. And thank you, Justin, for being on. And guys, I will talk to you soon. Hopefully next week, we will be having a review of the party. Well, not next week, but after the 30th, we'll be back on, and I'll show you videos, and we'll talk about everything that's going on downtown. And also, before I go, we're also going to have another BJ in Portuguese with a stand-up comedian down here coming up soon. I'm really excited about that, because we're trying to explore doing a few of these BJs in Portuguese. So thank you guys for the support. I'm still here. Sorry I can't do it every week like I used to, but it's just a lot of stuff to do. And that's it. We're done. Bye.
Ciao.